Welcome back to the collective journey. It is Monday. Rise and grind, my people. And you know what? While you're grinding, we're going to take a leisure week. And we're going to jump.
We did take a leisure week.
We did. But we're going to jump into talking about Framing Britney Spears, because that's what we spent our weekend doing, was trying to figure out how to download it, because we're in Germany. We don't have American cable. And we got it finally, and we watched it, and was very intrigued. And we thought, you know what? We need to have a conversation about this. So here we are.
So do you think she's lost her sanity?
You know, I'm like, be careful with how you ask that, right? I think that anybody that is in her shoes, I think it would be really hard to, you know, not feel like you've lost it. I feel like, I don't know, you know, I didn't even realize that Britney Spears was relevant like that. She has like 21 million followers on Instagram. Who knew? Not me. So I'm not like a big Britney fan. But I think that anybody that is in that situation could very well, you know, they could have lost their sanity as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of events that led up to that point of her, quote unquote, losing her sanity. But if you haven't watched it, I wouldn't say I encourage you to watch it, but it's pretty interesting watch. Just because it really, really teeters along the lines of somebody that, it's almost like, does she have mental issues, you know? And you're like, she seems so normal and put together because she's able to go to work and, you know, live a productive lifestyle in the sense of financially, right?
Well, she's an entertainer, and that level of energy, you know, I was tired just watching her.
Yeah, she was like doing a dance video, which I was like, I don't know. I think she seems a little bit off there, but she was like dancing and being, what do I know about dance? You know, maybe that was good. I don't know. But it just seemed really odd, right? She had like mascara dripping, you know, she looked
that was
a
from
little.
Her Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, let me pause you for a second. This summer, I was on Instagram, and I don't know if anybody else follows her, but like it was like a hype thing about her. It's going on. It was trending like Free Britney, right? And they were like talking about that she was posting cryptic messages on her Instagram. And I was like, who cares? There's kids in cages. Like, I don't care. But then it kept going on and on and on. And I was like, I started to become more intrigued in it. And they were saying that, you know, we told her that if she comes on tomorrow and does another video, put on a yellow pair of shorts. Wear something yellow if you're in trouble. And she wore a yellow pair of shorts. And so who knows, you know, like maybe all of us don't have lives and we need to get a life. But I was concerned. And who knows? It could go left. It could go right.
So do you think it's more of a infamy type thing? Like
Explain.
It's like how can I put it? It's like any publicity is good publicity. And she's kind of like towing the line, or, kind of playing with the idea, if she is, you know, that she has mental health issues in order to gain some sort of like notoriety, or, you know, kind of playing into the whole Free Britney Spears thing, because she's like, hey, you know, I'm getting this attention. Why not take it and run with it? You know, you see a lot of fame people that are celebrities kind of do the same thing.
It's kind of sick.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I don't know. Or maybe, yeah, she does have some sort of mental health issue and she is crying out for help. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know the full story, right? I want to say that I thought she was diagnosed with being bipolar. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. But I never really paid attention to her like that to really know the entire story. And then watching the documentary, I was really intrigued because I was watching everything add up, and I feel at some point people are gonna break. Like, we're humans. I know everybody walks around and says that they're perfect and they don't worry about anything or they don't stress about anything, but they're fucking liars, okay? And everybody breaks. Everybody has a breaking point. And I don't know. Honestly, if she is bipolar, okay, I understand, like, you need to be medicated for that. But sometimes I see, I saw the documentary and I just thought, I don't think there's anything wrong with her. I think that people were just the paparazzi. It's just too much, you know? Like, I didn't even know that there was a huge obsession with her like that. Like, you know,
her fans were going hard for her.
Like,
and because, well, they're outside the courthouse, you know, lobbying, saying free Britney, and like, these are people obviously that were impacted in a way because of her music or, you know, the type of influence that they had on her. I think there are some people out there like, hey, you know, she gave me the confidence to do X, Y, and Z thing. Like, it was actually kind of cool. And me, myself, I was like, oh, this is kind of like a cool community to tap into. Like, these are kind of people trying to uplift each other through Britney Spears. It sounds kind of crazy, but I'm like, that's cool. I like that. You felt
the love.
Yeah, there's a lot of love watching that, you know, them kind of free Britney. But those same fans, what's ironic about that is those same fans kind of led her to somewhat, I wouldn't say lose her sanity, because I don't think that, and I'll talk about why I don't think she's necessarily lost her sanity, but those same fans have, you know, it started the need for the paparazzi to go out after and, you know, chase her around and like be a part of every aspect of her life. Like, you're talking about a young girl that, what was it, 15, 16 years old when she did Oops, I Did It Again. And they really, really looked at her life and they wanted to know everything about it. Like, if she's in a relationship, if she's not in a relationship, what is she doing? What is she wearing? You know, is she presentable? Is she not presentable? What does she look like on a bad day? You know, and you know they're trying to get her to look kind of messed up on a bad day, and you know that's a whole thing. So then they're chasing her around, right? And I think they had that whole thing, that whole fallout with like Justin Timberlake and all that stuff, right? And she was like America's sweetheart, somewhat, right? And it was almost like the family. Like, it was like I think they put it as like, it was like the first royal family that we have had in a while. And not necessarily royal family, but like that level of involvement where everybody's watching them and it's like, oh my God, you know, I want to be them. I want to have a relationship like theirs, so on and so forth, right?
They like knew nothing about them.
Yeah, but it's all superficial, and it's all what, you know, it's kind of feeding what people want, you know, that beast of, you know,
a fantasy,
right? So in a sense, also, she was people's scapegoat, you know, for a lot of things. I think there was like a governor, right? And that was like really shocking to me. She was like, if I met Britney Spears, I would shoot her, you know? And I was just like, good God, like, and, you know, they're critiquing her on her being a bad mom. So I just look at her life, and every part of her life has been almost recorded and captured, and she's had to kind of be put together in a sense at all times. And I couldn't imagine going through my whole life like polished and put together. Like, that would drive me insane in that sense. Like, and it's almost like she was like our real life reality TV show. You know, it's almost like the Truman Show. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
No.
Or that movie. So it's about this, I think it's like has Jim Carrey in it. And they pretty much watch him through birth. And this guy doesn't know that he's being watched or recorded.
He doesn't know?
He doesn't know. So the whole thing is made up, right? I used to have like paranoia. I used to go through like life and be like, wait, am I the Truman Show?
Okay.
Are people watching me? Is this real? You know, but
Nobody's watching you.
think about her and like, you know, you have friends. You don't know if they're your real friends. You don't know if, you know, they're trying to get close to you for money or for the fame. And, you know, I think that'll really, really mess up a person, you know, just like kind of Kanye West, kind of the same thing, just like Kanye West that we're kind of seeing. So,
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
yeah, they're, you know, the same bipolar, you know, they're
Yeah.
really like hyper focused on their family and like critiquing them. So she's doing that. All this is happening. She's going through, you know, trying to find herself, relationships, all that stuff, right? And I don't know if anybody's gone through their life and been like, yeah, I've lived a pretty well polished life. Like I've made all the right decisions at every point in their life. I would be like, you're a liar, you know, like.
Yeah, people lie about it all the time.
But then, you know, fast forward, she's like a mom. And I think that's why I was like the start of everything, her kind of having like a mental breakdown, quote unquote, right? She's a mom and she's a mom back to back, which obviously postpartum, right? You know, and I think if she is having kids back to back, I couldn't imagine the emotional and physical toll that would take on her, right? And then everybody's watching this happen pretty much. Like it was insane to me. And then people are critiquing her and calling her a bad mom. And, you know, you're already in a very hyper emotional state, right? Because you're finding yourself as a mother, right? You're trying to find yourself as a parent, a provider, all these things. And then, you know, she has her career to focus on. It's a lot. And then, you know, these things start to happen. They start to critique her. You know, she's probably has anxiety from the paparazzi following her. She makes some bad decisions and boom, you know, she's like labeled insane, you know, and I was just like, man, that's intense. That's a lot. It's a lot for, I think, a mother to go through or just anybody in general.
Did you feel guilty after you watched it?
Yeah, because I remember being like, I think this happened like 2000, 2008 and kind of, I'm not going to lie, like I was watching her, you know, the whole shaved her head and I was like, man, she's really lost it. Like, it was almost comical to me because this is somebody, you know, she's very, very successful, right? And to me, I was like, well, you wanted this fame, you know, and now you can't handle it, which is like, you know, that's like
kind of a shitty thing to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was 17 years old, and I didn't really understand the full scope of honestly fame or anything. Not that I'm famous, but like she didn't ask for this, right? She was just a normal girl that wanted to do her. Obviously, you know, she made some money along the way, and fame and that level of being a celebrity costs something. It costs your privacy, you know.
It does. I just asked if you feel guilty because I feel like back when it was playing out, right? Like when she shaved her head and the paparazzi and jamming the umbrella in the car, you know, I guess you could just say like ignorant as to what the real situation was,
right.
You know, and like
probably, I mean, I didn't know all that.
Probably a huge asshole, like,
yeah.
You know, like, you know, you're going to go crazy like Britney. But now I look, and I just remember I had a friend who was like obsessed with her and she was like, you know, she's bipolar. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't know.
What does that even mean? Yeah.
You know, like just not really aware. But now I think if something like that happened, I feel like society would almost just respond differently.
But see, it's happening right now with Kanye West and people really critique him.
That's true. But
she's been the scapegoat ever since she's a young girl, and that's she could do everything right and everything wrong.
But Kanye has a really bad rep.
Yeah, because
regardless of whether he's right or wrong, I will say like I think it shocked more people because Britney was lives such a polished life, you know, like she put out that polished image.
Yeah.
Like just a small town girl, you know, like, and if you want to be honest, I love Kanye. I'm a Kanye fan, but I feel like people look at Kanye and they're like, he's an asshole, you know? So like people aren't going to like really want to side with him
Yeah.
because he's bipolar, because people just
Which is
focus in on the wrong things.
Which is funny too, because she had, he has outbursts, right? But think of Britney, right? Like she'd probably be in a better place if she had more outbursts, if that makes sense.
Maybe.
You know, like
Instead of suppressing all the time.
Yeah. And we seen like the outburst was like she shaved her head, right? And then she kind of somewhat attacked that paparazzi guy and, like messed up his SUV, beat the car, all this stuff, put the baby on the lap, ran off. Like if she would have, and then she talked about like probably developed anxiety from always being chased from the paparazzi. Like you never really have an intimate moment by yourself. That's think
real scary.
All that, yeah. Honestly, it's almost like watching an episode of The Black Mirror. If you look at Britney Spears' life and what has happened, like you drove the same people, that's what I'm talking about, the same people that idolize her and they're like, let's get her out. She's fine. She helped me do this and overcome, these mental health issues and gain the confidence to do this. Like it's ironic that those same people kind of put her in that situation because they were driving the paparazzi to take pictures and be a part of every single moment of her life, So I was just like, man, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of ironic in the sense, but.
Was that kind of like a pivotal point in society where paparazzi was just getting really big?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
it's like paparazzi was a thing. Everybody wanted to know about celebrities, right? And then you have like reality TV, like it's almost like you're trying to feed the beast, They're trying to feed the whole fame beast, social, what people want. They want to know more. They want to know more. They want to know more. And today, they kind of control more, or celebrities more of what they post, right? Like they're their own personal paparazzi, do their own Instagram pages. Now they do their own
different world.
Yeah, like Cardi B has her OnlyFans and like that. It's like behind the scenes of her shoots and like her life and stuff like that. So they're like almost being their own paparazzi in the sense like they choose what intimate moments they let you in their life.
Versus paparazzi just
chasing you all
them
the time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there is like paparazzi still, but like everybody's a paparazzi now, right? Everybody has an Instagram phone. You don't necessarily.
It's not. Yeah, I do feel like paparazzi or like the tabloids and stuff. It's just not as. It's not like I hate.
It's not as big because you get it on Instagram on your newsfeed. Of what's going on. I
used to be obsessed with TMZ, so yeah, like and now I'm like, is TMZ even a thing? I don't know. It's been like a few years since I've been in the States, so I don't really know what's going on in American cable. I miss it. If you hear me, just know I cannot wait to get back to the States so I can just watch trash TV all day. But I don't even feel like I'm like paparazzi. I mean, I know we've been in like COVID for a year, but I'm like, are they even still around? Are they still relevant?
Right.
And yeah, you're right. Like our world has changed so much, and I can't really. I just think it's a lot. I want to start from the beginning though. She grew up in Louisiana, okay? Do you know what it's like growing up in the Bible Belt of America?
No, but I would assume...
It's intense.
Yeah, I would assume there's a lot of, like, social pressures to gender roles, all that stuff, Like, hey, go to church, be a good wife, raise your kids...
Everybody puts up a
God.
front.
Right, yeah.
At all times, like,
okay.
My mom's like, you don't leave the house unless your makeup's done. Your makeup and your hair's done and you're dressed right. And so...
It's kind of no different from Europe, though, here.
That's true. But...
Or at least the dress part. People don't go out in gym attire. People kind of looked at... And if I see another person in gym attire, I'm like, hey, you're American.
That's...
Yeah.
But I just mean to, like, the point that I think that's like one thing that kind of influences. I don't know. I'm real skeptical. I don't think that she's lost her sanity. I think that the weight of the world has just been too much, and that anybody under that level of stress would have a moment where you're going to collapse. I don't think that she needs to be under conservatorship. Have I done enough homework? No, I haven't. But I think
What would you do? What would you do if you were in that position where she's trying to put her baby in the car seat, the paparazzi are coming after you, you're postpartum, and you're having an anxiety attack? Would you put your child on your seat and drive off? Or, you know... Well,
you want me to be real honest with you?
Yeah.
I'm like, I play no games. There's no fucks given. Like, I would have got out of my car and I would have fucking told somebody off.
But would you have got out of that place in that same fashion that she did? Would you consider to be a bad mom?
I don't think you can say that she's a bad mom. I
don't think so either.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd probably do the same if I felt like my life was in danger.
But wait, something I want to... That's why I said I want to start from the beginning, because she's from Louisiana, so that's the South, right? And she's from a really small town, okay? And there's a lot of stuff that we do in
like
that
what?
part of the country that's probably not acceptable anywhere else. You know,
What are you
they
trying to
let
say?
kids drive cars at like 12 years old, okay? Like, there's nothing going on out there. They've got, like, cornfields, okay? Like,
Were you driving a car at 14, Courtney?
no.
Exactly.
But I didn't grow up in the South, you know? Like, I'm from Texas. We're, like, a different region of the country. And where she grew up, it was probably, like, there were probably, like, 100 people in her town. And, because, okay, so if you didn't pay attention... They said, or she said in the interview, she said, my dad did it with me all the time. Okay, granted, that's like Britney. Like, that's like 15 years ago. Okay, got it. But when you have that type of, like, it's like a normal thing for you.
Right.
Like, you're not going to think twice about it. And then I'm sure, like, in a flight or fight mode, you know, she's like, my dad did this. I'm just going to do this to calm the baby down. And I know, like, obviously... I will say I wouldn't do that. But if I was in that situation, I think it very much could have changed. But I just think that people need to be more concerned that she felt so much pressure from paparazzi that she was willing to do a lewd, crazy act and get off her fucking jog about having the baby in the seat. Like, that's obviously a big no-no and all the things that we know. But I think the bigger concern is that she felt as if her safety was at risk.
What led to those events?
Yeah.
You know?
And the paparazzi, that guy that they were interviewing, he was completely delusional.
Yeah, what'd they ask him? They asked him, do you feel like she wanted you there or something like that? And he's like, yeah, she told me to leave like yesterday, but like not forever. And I was like, holy dude, I know you have to get paid, but like you could keep it 100 and just be like, hey, like I'm just trying to get paid. I was just trying to get this money. I know it probably wasn't the best thing to do or react or, you know, to fall around like that, but I was just trying to get this money. Like he was completely out of touch.
Okay, let's use an example. If I'm sitting here and I'm poking you and you're like, stop, and I continue poking you, and then you turn around and you smack the shit out of me, are we going to just focus on how you smacked the shit out of me? Or, you know, are we going to talk about how I was poking you and poking you and poking? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I get what you're trying to. Obviously, they're going to look at her in the.
He's insane for not just stepping away.
Yeah, but they're obviously trying to catch her in the most negative way possible. Like they wanted that reaction from her.
That's sick to me.
I could almost say that they almost coaxed her into getting in the car with their baby. Like I think one of the guys was like, hey, I'm concerned about you. Like he's following her around and he's like, hey, are you all right? I'm concerned about you. You know, and I was just like, are you really?
No,
Like,
he's getting a paycheck.
Yeah, if you were, you wouldn't be out at 1 a.m, like when this girl, she's like mascara running, everything, and you're still trying to take pictures of her. Like, you wouldn't be doing that if you were genuinely concerned about her.
I think we should have a conversation about how sick the paparazzi is and what's wrong with him to be so obsessed. Which, I mean, and I guess it's us, right? Like, it's the public who feeds into the tabloids, who feeds into the paparazzis, paying them to chase the celebrities around. But, like, what's wrong with you to be so obsessed, with catching somebody that you drive them to a point that they're unwell?
I don't know. Obviously, I think we see less and less of it now, right? I'm sure people like Kanye and stuff like that, obviously, they still do that. Actually, I take that back. People still do that. The paparazzi still do that. They still try to coax them into kind of making the wrong decision and, capitalizing on that certain situation. I don't think that's necessarily going to go away for a while. People like that.
They do. It's the whole thing was like really intriguing. I want to know where's her mom? Why is her mom like so MIA? And her mom declined to be interviewed as well. And I'm like, how did the conservatorship fall into the dad's hands if they said he's been MIA her whole life, like he's a recovering alcoholic.
Right. And you got to remember too, these documentaries, like, they're very opinionated, right? They're always going to try to sway you into what they want you to think, right? Like, this is one side of the story.
Well, they definitely swayed me, okay? Because I'm out there protesting now.
So let me ask you. So if she's capable of work, right? She's still bringing in revenue. For a while, she's still going on tour under this conservativeship. Why is it that she never spoke up prior to that? It's not like she's necessarily completely controlled, right? Like, she's out in the public eyes. At any point in time, she could be like, hey, this guy's crazy, help me, and like actually call out for help. Does that make sense? Or do you think it's more of like I
think a lot of things play into it.
Like what? What exactly plays into that situation?
I don't think it's as simple as you think.
No,
right?
I don't think so either.
I think that I think there was a lot of pressure on her. And I think it would have been a lot of pressure if it was anybody. And then I also think that, going back to the fact that her family's from the South, and, I think that has a lot to do with, probably why she's under conservatorship. Like,
why? What are you
because
trying to
I think
at?
people from the South, they really feel as if you need to put on a front and put on a polished image. And so when she started to tarnish that, I think that her parents probably stepped in and were like, nope, we're taking control now because you don't know how to control yourself anymore and you're embarrassing us. And I know that sounds really crazy, but I was also reminded when I was listening to something the other day, and they were talking about like dads from the South are really, really intense. And the person who said it was like Todd Chrisley's daughter, and I was like, I don't know if you know who Todd Chrisley is, but like he's pretty intense, and they're like from the South. But I think that that plays into those gender roles and like always putting up a polished front. I think her family has a lot to do with it. They probably play into this, yeah, she's crazy, she's lost her mind, like this and that. And to me, that's toxic.
Yeah. Do you think it's about the money?
Yeah, I'm sure money drives a lot of it. But how?
Because
like they're scared to lose the money because they're getting paychecks, is what you're saying?
Well, yeah, they're getting paid, but this whole thing is supposed to be for mental health reasons, right? It's supposed to look after her well-being. but yet they have her working towards this whole. They have her working. They have her almost under like an indentured servitude. If she is not well, they have her working throughout this whole thing and like going to Las Vegas and putting on shows and putting on a tour. And I think it's kind of about the money, you know. I feel like it's a form of keeping the money flowing, keeping her working, because she's a grown woman. At any point in time, she could be like, hey, I'm not having fun. I'm not doing this. And it seems like she has a whole team of people that rely on her, right? Her mom, her dad. And you got to remember, she was a child star. So they saw, or they were in control of her money from a young age. You know, she was getting paid. They were getting paid. They were handing her money. They were making those decisions. She hit it big when she was like 15, 16 years old. And they still kind of put her to work. They put her in that spotlight where she was getting asked questions like, hey, have you lost your virginity? Like at 15. And at any point in time, they could have been like, hey, this is too much. But they're like, hey, I'm trying to get this paycheck. I'm trying to get paid. So you play along with this whole image, you know? So I think a big portion of it, a big portion that is driving this whole thing, it has to be the money. It has to be the money. Because money will make some people do some crazy things.
I didn't even think about the money portion of it until just now. I just kind of thought that, you know, they wanted to just get her under control. I guess it's just her being from the South, and
but for what? For the money, right?
Yeah, I guess for the money, to keep the paychecks coming in, because they said that, like, you know, like her dad's in charge of everything, and like you said, you know, she's got a full team under her. I mean, it sounds kind of sick, but then the thing though is that 13 years is a long time. And at that point, to me, it seems as if you're taking advantage of a situation.
Yeah, and she's
39.
Yeah, she can't even come out from under her conservatorship, right? The person that is in charge of her whole, I guess, in charge of her is the only person that could renounce that. And it's weird, too, because she's like in a position where I think she's given an allowance, right? And she's can't drive. Like, she has people drive her. So essentially, she's like a child. She's like back to square one. She's like a child superstar. And I think for her parents, it's like almost like the most ideal for a person that's trying to take advantage of another person. That's like the most ideal situation. I don't know if that's the case with her, because it's hard to comment on that.
I think, I mean, aside from that, like trying to move on from that, I think that she is a trailblazer. When those people, her fans, were like talking about all the things that she did for them, I was like, wow, like, you know, I really was sleeping on a lot of her songs, like a lot of them that she, I guess, moved a lot of people in a way that I just, you know, didn't really pay attention to her back then. You know, it was, for me, it was just hit me baby one more time and oops, I did it again. And he drives me crazy. And that was it, you know, like she didn't really move me in any type of way. But yeah, a lot of people, you know, I guess really grew up with her. And, you know, like, I'm like, damn, she's like OG, you know, like, she OG.
Yeah, when they're talking about her, like her lyrics and, you know, why it is she made certain songs for certain situations, I was like, oh, this whole time. I mean, I knew that, but I just never really connected with her on her music like that, because she's a pop star and she, you know, her songs are kind of meant to be catchy, and you start to hear them over and over and over again. You don't necessarily like listen to her lyrics. I don't know. Not that they're that deep, but I was just trying to
sitting
find.
down in bed reading her lyrics.
I was like, "Oops, I did it again." No. What do you think about people sexualizing her from a very young age?
I don't like it. I mean, my opinion is that I think that women are, it's ironic. We're over-sexualized, right? But then we're told we're not allowed to be sexual beings, that only men are sexual beings. But that's not true. And I think it's so inappropriate that, you know, I don't know what happens to your brain when your offspring is like in the limelight and that you're so money hungry that you set aside the fact that they're, you know, being, in a way I kind of see it, I don't think it's appropriate. I don't know if saying verbally abusive is like the right term to say, so I won't say that, but that's not appropriate. And I just think like you see that with a lot of child stars, like you hear these stories and I'm like, where were your parents, you know? And
yeah, I mean, society's kind of waiting for these child stars to turn 18 in order to justify sexualizing them, right?
I didn't even realize her and Justin were so young when they dated.
No. I mean, I was young myself, so I was just like, oh, okay. And they talked about, they had like that whole cheerleader, high school football cheerleader complex. Like,
Yeah, they totally did. They were like Barbie and Ken.
yeah. And I was just like, I mean, from a young age, I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. You know, this is them. This is how it's supposed to be, you know, for them. Star versus star with the star, you know, and it's, I almost thought it was fake. For a while, I thought it was fake when I was young, but
Really?
yeah, because it just seemed too perfect.
You're
know?
like skeptical even back then?
I've always been skeptical. I told you I was
Damn.
paranoid. Truman Show. I'm going through life thinking like, are people recording me
You're
right
a
now?
lot.
I don't know. That's paranoia. But
Talk about what you thought about Crimea River, because I didn't realize that had to do with their breakup. And maybe I just forgot because, you know, I'm like, Brittany and Justin, like, who cares?
I don't know. I didn't really get into the weeds in that. I was just like, okay, they're broken up now. Cool. Like, knew it. Whatever. This is MTV. This is, you know, this is America. Like, this is, of course, like, you're going to have this, like, really dramatic breakup, blah, blah. But really why I asked you is, like, what do you think about her sexualizing her at a really young age? Is like, when I was watching that documentary, some of the stuff that they were saying to her, it was like blowing my mind. I'm like, those are things that people today would not get away with saying.
Yeah.
And it's almost like flip-flopped in the sense like back then you could say anything, but you couldn't show show anything, right? Like nudity was like a big no-no on TV or on the internet back then. And it's almost like flip-flop now. It's like you can put anything on TV, right? People half naked, but you have to be very careful of what you say. You can't just go around, you know, being emotionally insensitive and saying like a lot of, or like sexually inappropriate things. So that to me, it got me thinking, and I'm like, man, that's crazy. That's crazy how things were back then. But I'm sure if you took somebody from the 90s and dropped them off in 2021, they would be mind blown. They would be like, what is going on here? You know?
I wonder what they would think. So do you think we've made any progress?
I think it's a balance. I think it's always been a balance. It's always like towing the line of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And obviously, that's what sells. Like, the more you toe the line, or the more things you can get away with little by little, like the more people watch, the more controversy it creates, you know?
Well, true. I was just thinking, it's been 13 years since she's been under her conservatorship, right? And do you think that in the last 13 years that her having her breakdown has, you know, moved us in any type of way towards being more emotionally intelligent and more
No, I think
aware and less skeptical.
no. Well, because I wasn't even made aware that she was even under this. Maybe this is what sparks. You know, it's a spark for more mental health discussions, right, for her. But I think I didn't know about this, you know, and she hasn't been in the spotlight for quite some time. So it's not like she's on TV talking about mental health issues, right? She's like on the opposite end. She's more of like a,
Maybe she hasn't had the opportunity to.
right. She's on that like, hey, help me. You know, I need help. I'm crying out for help. I'm sending, you know, cryptic messages so that way somebody will help me because I'm in some sort of like a abusive relationship, mentally abusive relationship with their conservator. But then I look at people like, and it's very controversial to say this, right? Because not a lot of people like Kanye West, but I see him kind of creating more discussions on mental health and what it is to be bipolar and what it is to have, you know, something wrong with you or not be right or be stressed out or not be in a good mindset. You know, I see him have those discussions more than Britney. You're talking about a guy that's like talking about making a whole album dedicated to healing sounds, you know, because he feels that whether or not it's pseudoscience or not, he feels like that heals people, you know, and he wants to make positive and uplifting music even after, you know, all the past work he's done. He's like, hey, I want to take this step in the right direction and trying to do more for the mental health community. So I don't necessarily think Britney's necessarily sparked something yet. I think she may be on the verge, and if she's in the position, obviously she's a celebrity and she does have some sort of mental health issues. Whether or not she feels like she's a spokesperson for this, like she's a person that has mental health issues and she's somebody that everybody looks up to. She's a role model. Whether or not she accepts the role or not, she is a role model for a lot of people.
But where would we be today if she wouldn't have had her meltdown? We would have never seen somebody
Have a meltdown? I think there's...
Well, never mind.
Like that, in that sense, in like where she's shaving her head and, you know, she's like, get away from him, like freaking out. I guess you're right. I don't think nobody's ever seen that. And I think that's what was why people were so attracted to it. It's almost like watching a train wreck. Like you don't want it to happen. You know it's going to be bad, right? But you just can't help but, I guess, look away. And that's what people kind of were doing with her, essentially. I don't know. It's the Truman Show. It's the Truman Show. In the Truman Show, they make this guy go through... You need to watch that movie. If you haven't watched that movie, it's a good movie. But they pretty much coerce this guy into doing certain things in his life, whether they be good or bad. You know, they're like, hey, we're going to have his girlfriend break up with him. Why? Because it's good entertainment. And it's almost kind of what happened to Britney, essentially. Or not. I don't know. You tell me.
I think that, well, I know that she's not out there doing what Kanye's doing and in the community, right? But I was just kind of thinking, you know, not everybody is going to respond to something the same way, right? And maybe she's not looking to be a leader with it, but I just think that like he's looking to lead the way. But I just think that, you know, she's a trailblazer in a sense. I think that you have to remember what women's history has looked like. We have come very far, and we have even been thrown into mental institutions for being crazy and people were not crazy.
What do you mean crazy?
Well,
for being
they would
outspoken,
say,
right?
For being outspoken, they're like, she's crazy.
Give her a lobotomy.
Send her away. And for her to kind of step out, and I know it's only 2008, but still, like, for her to step out, you know, I'm like, in a way, like, she's brave. She's fearless. We should thank her, you know? I think it's still really sad that, you know, we pushed her to the point that we did. And it, you know, I think we have a lot to thank her for. I think she's a trailblazer. I don't think that, you know, it really pissed me off. I know this is kind of like backtracking a little bit, but it really pissed me off when the governor's wife was like, I would shoot her. And I thought, like, Britney's response, and like whoever it was, Diane Sawyer, whoever was interviewing her, she was like, you know, gasped at Britney for having the response that she did. And I was like, she's not here to play your game. Like,
what,
you know,
what did she say? She said,
Britney was like, that's
not
really sad, you know, and she was like, I'm not here to be a role model for everybody. And I'm like, yeah, she's not.
Yeah,
you know?
She said that was like really nasty. And it was. And she was like, what? How could you say this?
You know, and yeah, and everybody grows up. And I think, you know, I said it earlier. I said, look at Miley Cyrus. Like, we have a lot to, you know, we have all these Disney stars who come on Disney now, and then they branch out from Disney and they grow up, and it's acceptable. It wasn't acceptable when she was going through all that. Remember when she was like really like,
her and Christina Aguilera.
yeah,
right? Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, you know, they're like going through this, you know, I remember people saying like it was a slut phase, and it's like, you know, you look back and you're like, that's really terrible that you would say that. You know, men don't get scrutinized like that.
Yeah.
And I just think that, I don't think that, I'll end it on this. I don't know that I'm 100% sold that she should have gone under a conservatorship. That's really intense.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, I hope that our emotional intelligence has evolved since then. And I hope that we keep evolving, because things like this are really serious, and it's not okay to put people under pressure to live this polished life where everything is perfect every step of the way and nobody has a quote unquote Britney moment. Like, that's not true. You know, everybody loses their cool. Everybody feels like I'm going to collapse. And we just need to live more in the real world and accept that we're human. We're not perfect beings, and not every day is pretty. And I'm really just kind of curious to know what other people think. So let us know. And we'll see you guys next week. So don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Share us with one of your friends. Follow us on IG at The Collective Journey Podcast. If you're interested in following Abe and I on our day-to-day grind in Germany, at Abe Farias and at CocoBella68. And Courtney and Abe signing out. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.